The uncertainty of immigration reform is an ongoing concern that wavers between hope and fear for many immigrants in our area. We will have representatives from the Mexican Consulate to discuss this and other issues. Plus, we meet a young Latina who is on a path to living the American dream, and she will give advice to other dreamers. We will cover an interesting and innovative way of providing medical care with a representative from the National Association of Hispanic Nurses. It's all here on the next Latino Motion. Join us.
Choose quality, value, distinction. Choose Stockton.
Latino Motion with Bert Lopez is presented by Latino Motion Public Affairs Media, a New Jersey nonprofit corporation, and Stockton University. This edition of Latino Motion with Bert Lopez is brought to you by the HD Studios at the campus of Stockton University. Funding for Latino Motion is provided by AtlantiCare, healthcare you can believe in. Atlantic City Electric, energy for a changing world. And South Jersey Gas. Welcome to Latino Motion, a weekly interview show highlighting issues impacting New Jersey's Latino community while advancing understanding of Latino cultural heritage and contributions to our society. And here is your host, Bert Lopez.
Buenos dias, and thank you for joining us today. As we approach yet another national election for president, we're still not any closer to comprehensive immigration reform. This uncertainty is an ongoing concern that wavers between hope and fear for many immigrants in our region. Joining me today to discuss this and other services of the Mexican Consulate are Erica Guzman and Carlos Torres. Bienvenidos to Latino Motion. And Erica, I know your second time here on the show, and we were delighted to have you doing Hispanic Heritage Month, but we want to talk a little bit about some of the fears and concerns that some of the immigrants here in the U.S. are facing today with what we heard about expedited raids that are taking place through IMS. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, thank you for the invitation. I think it is very, very important that all the Mexican community knows that the Mexican Consulate in Philadelphia is open for any inquiry. And we have a special line. If they have that inquiry or that emergency, we have that line for this topic. But it is also important to highlight that we are open always. You can send your inquiry by email or maybe by Facebook, or maybe you can visit the consulate because we have a group of lawyers that can give you some guides also in any specific issue.
Carlos, you do have the number of that emergency number and the regular number that people should call. Can you give us those numbers?
Sure, Bert. Well, the number for emergency is 215-266-3740. It's a 24-hour service number, and people can just feel free to call anytime they feel like they're in danger or they just have an emergency. And actually, I wanted to go a little bit deeper into what this immigration topic is all about, like what's happening with the so-called raids. I would like to specify that they should not be labeled as raids. They should better be labeled as operations. And these operations are really targeted to people who are actually who have faced like final removal orders from immigration, and somehow they just ran out of options. So in this case, these people should be aware, like maybe immigration should be looking for them. But at the moment, I can report that the Mexican Consulate in different contacts of exchange of information with immigration in the area of Pennsylvania, Delaware, and the south of Jersey, we haven't encountered any Mexican families into immigration custody as a result of this operation. So in any case...
That's a good distinction between the...
Exactly.
It's not really right, it's an operation, and it's targeted specifically.
It's really targeted to some specific families. I know it's really bad, like it's super bad anyways, but in that case, we should not just raise these kind of alerts and provoke panic, but
You know,
we should be
people
preventive.
sometimes get their information in the street, so it's good to hear exactly what it is. And if they have a concern, they can certainly
Yeah,
call
they can
the
always
regular
call
number.
us. They can count on us. They can call us. We have the information, and we have some recommendations like do not sign any papers if you don't understand what the paper entails. Do not sign. Do not open the door until you actually can verify that the authorities are coming to your place and they actually have a warrant to arrest you or to take you into their custody. So you should be really, really aware of these things before panicking. And in that case, you just can come to the consulate and talk to us and ask for a legal advice. Like that would be the best way to go, and to spread the word about the legal services that the Mexican consulate can provide to the community.
We want to talk a little bit about some of the things that the consulate is working on, and one is promulgating gender equality. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, well, this is important for this administration. The Mexican consulate and all the consulates, Mexican consulates in the United States are promoting gender equality, and we are joining a United Nations campaign that is HeForShe. We are organizing some workshops and we are promoting this topic. It means that we are explaining which are the women's rights, how you can protect those rights, and how can you defend those rights. It is important to know that if women can protect those rights, we can build better societies. I think it will be a fair society.
It's a danger mix when we were talking about maybe the legal status plus the fact that the cultural nature of machismo, if you will, for some women. So it's good that we get that word out about the gender equality.
Exactly. And it is important to know that maybe we are suffering violence because we link violence with physical violence, but there is more than that violence. We have psychological violence, emotional violence, and we can have violence inside our jobs. It is sometimes because we don't have our salary is not fair, for example, but maybe we can have another problems related to sexual harassment, for example.
It's great that we're getting this word on. We'll put some more information on the screen, but right now I just want to talk about the extended hours. That you do have a mobile consulate that's coming to Violin on February the 27th, so we'll put that information out. And you're also extending Saturday services and the next Saturday in Philadelphia for the consulate to be open.
Yeah, it's going to be on January the 30th. We're going to be open, and normally we take kind of the same schedule during the daily basis schedule. Like we take the same services. People can go and just get the passports, the consular ID, and normally we tend to invite some organizations to come over and talk and discuss about these services that they also render to communities.
And it is important. All the people that want passports or consular IDs called matriculas have to make an appointment at Mexitel. That is important. They need an appointment.
And for the Violin.
Exactly for the
well.
Violin and for the extended hours on Saturday on January.
Okay, we'll put that information up. So thank you for joining us here on Latino Motion. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with my next guest right here on Latino Motion.
Latino Motion with Bert Lopez is presented by Latino Motion Public Affairs Media, a New Jersey nonprofit corporation. Join us online at www.latinomotion.tv. Find us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. We encourage your comments and contributions for show topics.
Welcome back to Latino Motion. Many immigrants that arrive here as children have come to know this country as their only home. But as young adults, they find many doors closed to them. Today, I have one of those dreamers to discuss her story and help this available for other dreamers. Marisol Conde Hernandez, welcome to Latino Motion. Now, you came in here to the U.S. From Mexico, and you were only 1 year old. Tell me a little bit about your story.
Well, thanks for having me, Bert. As you said, I went to the United States when I was a year old. My family and I are from Mexico. I and my family settled in Princeton, and we've lived in Central Jersey ever since. And I was able to navigate the educational system on my own and when I was growing up, I'm a little older, Dreamers weren't public about their narratives. They weren't openly sharing their stories. For the most part, it was developing nationally and statewide, but I was the first one in the state to really be public. So I've been public about being undocumented for about 10 years now.
Well, let's just say that you've become a strong advocate for rights for immigrants and particularly for the Dreamers, children that came at like your age, and you were instrumental in helping to pass the in-state tuition law as well. Tell me a little bit about that.
I helped co-found an organization called the New Jersey Dream Act Coalition, which was the first statewide organization of young people, predominantly Dreamers, that sought to advocate for and on behalf of our undocumented families and other fellow Dreamers like ourselves. That organization no longer exists. Now we have what's called the New Jersey Alliance for Immigrant Justice, which is a larger umbrella organization, but the youth group is called the New Jersey Youth for Immigrant Liberation, and they're doing a phenomenal job.
So let's talk about your story. You're now in law school. So, many individuals feel that perhaps because you don't have access to grants and that kind of stuff, that you can't go to school. That's it. Once you finish high school, it's very difficult to go beyond that. But you want to dispel that myth. Tell me a little bit of how you did it and what advice you give others. Absolutely.
So very briefly about myself, what I did is I graduated high school. I went to the county college, and I paid my way through. I've always worked full-time and gone to school part-time. After graduating Middlesex County College, I then attended Rutgers University, where I attended part-time, worked full-time. I graduated, and then I took a few years off and decided to apply for and enroll in law school. Now, luckily in New Jersey, what we have now is in-state tuition for undocumented students. And there are certain criteria you have to meet to be eligible for that. And you have to do that, you have to prove that you've attended for a New Jersey high school for at least 3 years. You have to have graduated or received your GED from the state of New Jersey, and you have to sign an affidavit or a waiver. Now, usually it's the college that handles that part, but for anybody who's currently in high school, who's undocumented and or who has DACA, you can go to college. There is, to my knowledge, no university or college in the state of New Jersey that bars admission based on your status. So if you hear that you can't go to college because you're undocumented, that's false.
Yeah, you mentioned DACA. Tell me a little bit. You applied for DACA and you're under the DACA program as well.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that.
So DACA is the executive order that was first issued by the president in 2012 that allows young people that meet certain criteria the ability to apply for what's called deferred action. That is not legal status. It doesn't allow you to leave the country in and of itself. It just simply means that Homeland Security is not going to actively seek your deportation unless you commit some offense. With that deferred action, you can apply for work authorization. And with work authorization, you can get a Social Security number, you can work legally, and with those two documents, you can apply for a driver's license in the state of New Jersey.
Now, what advice do you give to individuals? I know you work your way through, but it's very difficult to come up with the money for college. There's still some private grants available and private institutions that you could go through. Tell me a little bit about that.
If you're undocumented, you are not eligible for any financial aid whatsoever. But as you said, you are able to access private grants or scholarships, and also through the schools that you attend as well. Generally, what I like to advise young people is that yes, paying for school is the hardest part of going, but it is possible. It will be slower and harder for you than it will be for some of your peers, but it's just as rewarding. Apply for anything that comes your way, go out of your way. No one's gonna come to you and give you that information. But there are two things to keep in mind. One is always be truthful in everything you apply for. Never falsely use a Social Security number, and never claim you're a citizen if you're not, because that will come back and bite you in the butt. Not just in the academic process, but also if you're ever eligible to adjust your status.
Well, we're going to leave it at that because that's excellent advice to give to many young individuals facing the same circumstances that you are. Thank you for joining us here on Latino Motion, and we're going to be right back with my next guest right here on Latino Motion.
Latino Motion with Bert Lopez is presented by Latino Motion Public Affairs Media, a New Jersey nonprofit corporation. Join us online at www.latinomotion.tv. Find us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. We encourage your comments and contributions for show topics.
Welcome back to Latino Motion. We're proud to continue our partnership with the National Association of Hispanic Nurses, the Garden State Chapter. Today, we will cover an interesting and innovative way of providing medical care with a representative from the Garden State Chapter, Maricela. Welcome to Latino Motion. Maricela, I didn't say your last name. What is your last name?
Maricela Siguri.
Siguri. I didn't want to mess it up, so I'll make sure you said it first. You are the CEO of TeleNurse Network, and you're also the chair of marketing for the National Association of Hispanic Nurses, the Garden State Chapter. So you know a little bit about what telemedicine is. Tell me a little bit about what it is.
So telemedicine is a way of connecting with a medical provider from your computer or your phone or via text.
So it's using the technology basically to do that. So what's the benefit of doing so?
Some of the benefits is really accessibility and ease to care. So for instance, if you're a patient that was discharged from a hospital, you can easily connect with a provider for any questions that you may have on your discharge instructions. What
would be some of the typical, I mean, you mentioned folks coming out of the hospital, but is this, if I have a cold, if I have, feeling nauseous, I could just call and be able to get the access directly and get review for my health conditions?
Exactly. Some basic medical concerns, for instance, if you have an upper respiratory infection, a sinus infection, perhaps the beginning of a urinary tract infection, or some basic counseling. If you need to connect with a medical, a telehealth psychiatrist or a mental health provider, they're available. And the great thing about that is that it's private. You're in your home, and it's the same type of care as if you would go to any provider at an office setting.
So I've been involved with AtlantiCare for a very long time, and I know a little bit about the use of this modern technology for psychiatry. It works out pretty well, and we were fearful that it wouldn't take off, but it has. And as the CEO of the TeleNurse Network, you seeing that people are taking advantage of this new technology?
Yes, they are, and what's great about it is that certain software, you can actually integrate some of the biometric data. So for instance, if you have a Fitbit or you're really into apps for health, whether you use it for obesity management or just for your blood pressure or anything like that, any type of apps that connect to Apple can integrate to some of the software where now when you connect with a provider, that provider sees your metrics, any trends, whether your blood pressure, your weight, anything or any recommendations, you can do so from looking at your data. So it's a really comprehensive way of providing care.
Well, and the tools and the apps you mentioned could be somewhat complicated for some individuals. Exactly. Can this be as easy as picking up the phone to call a health provider?
It can, actually. Some of the software, it gives you a choice whether you connect with a provider via the phone or via the audio video, sort of like a Skype session. So it's as easy as that.
You mentioned some of the providers that are on the other end, and you mentioned psychiatry. So give me a round. We can have physicians, we can have
nurses,
nurse practitioners.
You can have dermatologists, you can have orthopedics, and just any really specialty is really starting to utilize telehealth.
Now, you pay online, obviously, yes. And there are health insurance that will provide this as a service.
Yes, actually, in the state of New Jersey, as of January 1st of 2016, there are some private insurances that accept telemedicine as a way of connecting with your own provider or with any other provider. So they get reimbursement just as if they went to your office.
Shifting gears a little bit with the other hat you wear as the Director of Marketing for the National Association of Hispanic Nurses, the Garden State Chapter. Tell me about some of the things you guys are doing to promote nursing as a career and other activities that you're undertaking.
Absolutely. So we're always looking for members for the Garden State Hispanic Nurses Association, and we give out scholarships, not only to Hispanic nurses, but whoever really needs it. It's really to promote the nursing profession. There's less than 4% of Hispanic nurses out there, and there are obviously millions of Hispanics that need our care. So it's a way of promoting nursing, the nursing profession.
So if you are involved in as a nurse, you want to be a nurse, I understand some of your members are also students.
Exactly, yes.
And they could be affiliate members that are not necessarily in the nursing, but it could be in any of the healthcare
Yes.
providers and so forth. They could become members of
Yes,
the
they don't
organization.
necessarily have to be Hispanic. It could be any nationality. It's really about collaborating and bringing in together students, nurses, advocates, come together in Garden State and really help out the community.
Oh, so we want to put up the information. If anyone
Sure.
wants information how to get a hold of the Garden State chapter, they could
Yes.
do so. And also want to put up information for the TeleNurse Network that you're also the CEO of. Thank you for joining us here on Latino Motion. And thank you for joining us at home once again here on Latino Motion.
Choose quality, value, distinction. Choose Stockton.
Funding for Latino Motion is provided by AtlantiCare, healthcare you can believe in. Atlantic City Electric, energy for a changing world. And South Jersey Gas.